Deeper Cinema presents the 10 best supporting actors of the period 1895 to 1919. In 10th place, William Scheer for Regeneration. William "Billy" Scheer, as he was known at the time, plays Skinny in Regeneration, and with his eye patch he is what most people remember about the movie. A solid villain here, he mixes quite well with real gangsters from the Bowery, who play alongside him in his gang. In what is possibly, as director Raoul Walsh claimed, the first long-feature gangster movie ever, William Scheer is vital in his constant menace to the characters of Rockland Fellows and Anna Q. Nielsen, and he helped Raoul Walsh a lot in his new directing career, as much as the new Fox Film Corporation in its first feature production. William Scheer would quit cinema in 1920 and open a store and later work as a reporter, dying in 1933 of pneumonia.
In 9th place, Ben Alexander for Hearts of the World. Acting as just a 7-year-old kid, Ben Alexander is touching as the little brother of Robert Harron in this picture. In a pivotal scene, he and his brothers have to hide the body of their mother in a cellar, so that at least the Germans won't touch it. In this tough scene he shines and completely melts the audience's heart. He kept on acting even as he aged, mostly in many small films, later had a good part in All Quiet on the Western Front, but mostly descended to bit parts or even working as an extra. He was also a radio announcer for many years, but his big break would come in 1954, playing a big role for the TV hit Dragnet.
In 8th place, Jim Mason for Jubilo. Jubilo was a great vehicle for Will Rogers, who would become an extremely famous man in America in the 20s and 30s. But the film also owes a lot to a great villain played by Jim Mason. His Burt Rooker is a scumbag, a man set on revenge with a very sick mind, able to even make Will Rogers lose his temper. Jim Mason steals every scene that he's in, and it is too bad that he didn't have meteor roles in his future. He would still have some relevance in the 20s, although far from becoming a leading player, but he faded into bit roles and only acted as an extra up to the early 50s.
In 7th place, Harry Liedtke for The Oyster Princess. A very charming actor, Harry Liedtke here plays Prince Nucky, who doesn't have much money and sends someone to represent him to the character played by Ossie Osvalda, who takes his name and marry Ossie in his place. Liedtke here represents the old impoverished world facing the new world of the Nevorische Ossie Osvalda, and they in the end manage to get along fine, to say the least. Harry Liedtke was a regular in Ernst Lubitsch's films at that time, having acted in such films as Carmen, Summarin and Madame Dubarry. He would keep his status in German cinema throughout the 20s, only losing it in the 30s onwards. Over 60 during the Second World War, he was tragically killed by Soviet soldiers trying to save his third wife from their attack when the Soviets invaded Berlin in 1945.
In 6th place, Ben Dealey for Victory. A psychopath in a 1919 motion picture, that's how one can summarize Ben Dealey's role in Victory, directed by Maurice Turner. He is the boss of the gang who brings help to loner Jack Holt and to Sina Owen, a woman who slowly takes him away from his shell. Ben Dealey acts mostly with some sort of sunglasses, and his character of Mr. Jones is eerie and has obvious pleasure in seeing people suffer, something that makes the audience fear for the protagonist's future in that very isolated island. He would never have such a good role again in his future, and would die only 5 years later, in 1924.
In 5th place, Hjalmar Peters for Song of the Scarlet Flower. Hjalmar Peters plays in this film the stern father who doesn't trust the character of Lars Hansen and forbids him to marry his daughter, believing him to be a poor and irresponsible wanderer. He commands great authority in his role, and 1919 was ultimately his greatest year in cinema, with good roles in this film and also in Ferry of Solbakken and Sons of Ingmar. He adequately played the stern and demanding father of the leading lady in all those 3 films. He would act up to the late 30s, and even worked alongside Ingrid Bergman in 2 of her initial pictures in mid-30s, although both were minor roles for him.
In 4th place, Theodore Roberts for Joan the Woman. As Cauchon, Theodore Roberts persecutes Joan of Arc relentlessly, adding drama to this already tragic and mythical story. He commands here her infamous trial, and it is clear that Joan has no chance with this bitter and cruel bishop. Usually Theodore Roberts played light and comedy roles, even in many Cecil B. DeMille films such as in Male and Female, Don't Change Your Husband and Forbidden Fruit. Actually, DeMille had him in such high esteem that he not only cast him in over 20 of his films, but also gave Theodore Roberts the role of Moses in the Ten Commandments in 1924. And that was no favor at all, since Theodore Roberts wasn't called the Great Duke of Hollywood for nothing, having had stage experience since 1880. And when this actor passed away, in 1928, he even left a big chunk of his personal belongings to Cecil and William DeMille in his will, having come to the conclusion that both had helped him much more than his own family.
In third place, Erich von Stroheim for The Heart of Humanity. Before becoming a major director, Erich von Stroheim was already establishing himself slowly in the acting market, starting on extra or bit parts until he got some proeminence. But the movie that put him totally in the map was The Heart of Humanity. In it he plays a two-faced man that is first a friend at home, in Canada, of the film's couple, but later as a German officer shows himself as a monstrous man that attacks the nurse played by Dorothy Phillips and even, in a shocking scene then and now, throws a baby from a window, which completely turned Erich von Stroheim in the man you love to hate, and he enjoyed tremendously that the public hated his screen persona so much. He would capitalize dearly on that, becoming a perfect movie villain. In The Heart of Humanity he stole every scene that he was in and showed everyone that he was ready to set his mark in Hollywood, as he would totally do in the 20s.
In second place, Lon Chaney for Victory. Ben Dealey was great in the film as that psychopath, sure, but Lon Chaney was even more outstanding as a villain. In a film that he did not use any makeup to become even more menacing, he did step up to prove that he was a force to be reckoned with already. Leading actor status would come next year with The Penalty, but he was already established as a very competent supporting player, one of those who could easily steal the picture under everyone's noses. He did so in a very solid film like Victory, making it even more powerful and engaging. One of the greatest stars in silent cinema was blossoming just at the right time and would become gigantic in the 20s, makeup or no makeup.
Best Supporting Actor of the period 1895 to 1919. John Ekman for The Outlaw and His Wife. The Outlaw and His Wife already had a great pair of actors in Victor Sjostrom and Edith Erastov, both filmed spectacularly by a notorious cinematography, so it was already set to become somewhat great. Obviously though, it pretty much guaranteed greatness when the film cast John Ekman in a sort of Javert role, the famous character in Les Miserables who never lets go in his pursuit of Jean Valjean. Like Javert, Ekman is relentless from start to finish, and even has the extra ingredient of desiring the widow for himself and her money, of course. His character is in himself a study of envy, greed, jealousy and fake morality, whose obsession might just spoil everyone's lives, including his own, and makes the film even more powerful and remarkable. Ekman wouldn't have the stellar careers of Lon Chaney and Erich von Stroheim, for sure, but he did have a most respectable one, that would end only in 1950 with an Ingmar Bergman film, To Joy, in which Victor Sjostrom curiously also performed, a man who had directed and acted alongside him for so many years, a most fitting finish to his career, no doubt. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and if you agreed or disagreed with this selection, feel free to post on the comment section.